Hi everyone, I'm Alex and I'm the founder of TravelSisters. We're a female-only travel community and usually we'd empower you to travel safely together by using our app. But lockdown kind of sucks. So here's our special coronavirus travel interview series. I'll be interviewing some interesting and fun travel sisters from our community living across the whole world. And if you want to join and have a travel chat with me as well, then make sure to join our group and let us know. Hi Nicoletta, thank you very much for joining us today. Where are you at the moment and how's the situation in lockdown?
Yeah, so thank you for the invitation first. I'm Italian, so currently I'm in Italy, but usually I live in Santorini, in Greece. I've been living there for the past 3 years, but I came back here in Milan for the situation to help my family. So I'm currently in a quite strict lockdown, also quite long. So we've been under lockdown since the beginning of March, the end of February, which is where I came back. And we will be for sure under lockdown until the beginning of May. And then we'll see, even though currently it looks like the situation is slowly improving. So fingers crossed.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Great. Then, well, let's get started. What are your top 3 things to do in the area where you're at? And feel free to either pick Milan or in Santorini. I'm not sure what feels more right, but what would you recommend?
I would say Santorini. Yeah, I would prefer Santorini also because it's the place where I usually live also in winter. And yeah, it's a beautiful island that, it's very popular. So I'm sure that almost everyone knows Santorini. So it's a very popular, so also touristic island, but it is an island which has to offer a lot. So it's, let's say people know Santorini mostly for 2 villages, which are called Fira and Ia, for the sunsets, which are very famous and which are, of course, very beautiful. But I would say I prefer to talk about Santorini in a more authentic way. So I usually prefer the south of the island, which is also more traditional and also less spoiled by tourism. So I would highly recommend for example, to watch the sunset, of course, in Ia, which is the most popular one. But for sure also from the very south of the island, from the lighthouse, which is also, I found it very romantic, and it gives you a full idea of the shape of the island. So it's really beautiful, and usually it's quieter than the sunset in Ia, which is very crowded. I recommend, I'm a person who likes to wake up very early. So I usually wake up for the sunrise. So I would recommend also a sunrise from a beach, always in the south, which is called Vlikada, which is a stunning beach, very small, with some like dunes behind, which reminds me a bit of the like a moon landscape. So for the sunrise with the sun in front of them is really fascinating. And then something that you could do when you come to Santorini, which is, I think, a way to combine the sightseeing and also to learn something and to taste something nice. It's either like a food tour or maybe a wine tour, which you can do, of course, with, I don't know, with a group. Or you can do it also by yourself, you can organize it. Because Santorini, generally speaking, Greece, it's very famous, for example, for the good food. And Santorini, there are quite a lot of places where you can, try traditional, tasty food. And also Santorini is very famous for its wine. Santorini, it's a volcanic island, so the soil is very specific and gives tasty bit to the wine. You can try, the most popular ones are whites, or for example, Vinsanto, which is a sweet wine. And there are several wineries on the island. So you can maybe combine 2 or 3 of them, and you can do some wine tastings. And it's nice because you can learn about the island through the tradition of the winemaking, and usually they offer you also some traditional food. So I think it's a very tasty and fun way to discover Santorini.
Sounds perfect. I'm a big foodie, so I'll be there for all the food.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a sunset or 2 as well, but just a food.
Yeah, you can combine the wine tour for the sunset. Not maybe for the sunrise, but...
Okay. And what are your personal favorite places, the top 3?
So first, my village, which is called AKROTIRI. It's a village in the very south of the island. It's in between the lighthouse and the Red Beach, which is also a very popular place in Santorini. So it's the first place which I visited when I visited Santorini for the first time in 2005. And it's the place where I live. So it's the village that welcomed me. So it's a very personal connection.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't
it's
have
also
to be in Greece. So in terms of top 3 places, could be wherever you've been traveling in general.
Okay. Yeah. So this is, let's say, it's the place of my heart.
Yeah.
Then I went to Cuba on a solo travel many years ago. And I visited the island from south to north by myself with my backpack. And it was an amazing experience. So it was a great way to discover a new culture. And I'm a big fan of cities with ports. So just to mention, one Italian city which I really love, and I think it's a beautiful one, I would say Naples. Which is a very, very charming place, and it combines history, Italian tradition, good food, fun, and art. So I would definitely recommend also Naples, and it's for sure one of my favorite places.
And in Cuba, you said you did the whole south to north backpacking.
Yeah.
How long did that take, or how long do you think would you recommend for people to enjoy the trip, really?
I stayed 4 weeks. So it was, I think I would say in between 3 and 4 weeks if you want to go from the south to the north. It was even 20 years ago, even though I don't think that it changed a lot. But, the connections are, they were not super fast. And anyway, I wanted to enjoy the experience. So for example, I stayed maybe more time in places which were not probably the best ones, like the most beautiful ones, but I stayed because I was sleeping in this, they're called Casa Particular, which is a bit of an early Airbnb stage. So usually you had your room and bathroom, or only the room in a house where there was a family. So you could live with them. So, for example, I stayed in many places just because I found myself at ease with the family, and we did stuff together. So it was not because maybe of the place, but it was more about the people. So I think 4 weeks was the right time. But I would say 3-4 weeks if you want to do the world tour, because it's quite it's not too small, it's not even too big, but there are quite a lot of small villages and nice places to visit.
Perfect. And if money doesn't matter, where would you go right after lockdown?
I think it would be New York, because I live on a small island, so usually, so sometimes I need like a bigger picture. I'm also a big fan of art and photography. I'm a photographer myself, so sometimes I feel the need to to go to museums and exhibitions, and generally speaking, art or theater, concerts. So I think New York would be a great place to combine all my passions.
Awesome. Have you been before, or would that be the first time?
Would be the first time.
Yeah, that would be an
Yeah,
amazing trip, definitely.
yeah.
And last but not least, what's your personal top travel tip?
Um, I would say as a solo traveler,
Mhm.
I would say to trust yourself. So to trust your instinct. So if you don't feel to do something, don't do it.
Mm.
So trust your guts somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that even if you are a solo traveler, and probably being a solo traveler as a woman, sometimes maybe uh, at the beginning when you start traveling this way, probably you feel a bit scared
Mm.
of maybe talking to other people, but I think the connection with other travelers and also with locals is really important. And at least for my personal experience, I usually I never feel alone, even if I'm traveling alone,
Yeah.
because I actually think that traveling with someone else, I think it's a complete different experience, of course, and also
Yeah,
somehow you cannot meet as many people as you can when you are alone.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
this
I
would
think
be
that's a
my
good summary because when I traveled alone to Australia for the first time, I wouldn't say necessarily scared because I'm quite outgoing,
yeah.
but it was definitely a concern that I'll be alone, I'll feel lonely, but no, not
No.
once. So many
And then the good
people.
thing is that, when you don't want to stay with people, you can just,
Yeah,
somehow
just leave.
stay
It's like bye.
inside.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure that Travel Sisters will find that super interesting, especially with Santorini, because as you said, it's such a popular place. It's really nice to get a local experience on it and
Yeah.
the tips behind the hidden gems of the island, I guess. So thank you very much for joining us and stay safe during lockdown.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much for
Thanks.
inviting me.
Bye.